The massive crystal dome of the Galactic High Council chambers gleamed under artificial starlight. 12 different alien species sat in their designated seats, each representing thousands of worlds and billions of lives. The chamber had witnessed countless decisions that shaped the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Ambassador Jin-Woo Park sat quietly in the human section, a small area near the back of the Great Hall. His dark suit looked plain compared to the colorful robes, armor, and biosuits worn by the other delegates. He held a simple data pad and took notes while the council debated the latest territorial disputes. Chairwoman Veltar rose from her crystalline throne at the center of the chamber. Her body was made of living crystal that changed colors based on her emotions. Right now, she glowed a steady blue, which meant she was focused on business. Her voice echoed through the hall with natural authority. The Zephyrian Empire requests expansion rights into Sector 7 Alpha, she announced. This will require relocating several smaller species to make room for their growing population. The Zephyrian delegate, a tall reptilian creature with silver scales, stood up. His name was Commander Sisk, and he commanded respect through fear. Our people need more worlds. The weak species in that sector are not using the resources properly. We can make those planets productive. Jin-Woo looked at his datapad. Sector 7 Alpha bordered human space. 3 of the weak species, Sisk mentioned, were close allies of humanity. They had signed trade agreements just last year. Jin-Woo raised his hand politely. If I may speak, Jin-Woo said in his calm voice, perhaps we could find a solution that helps the Zephyrian people without displacing others. Human engineers have developed new farming techniques that could increase food production on existing Zephyrian worlds. Several alien delegates laughed. The sound echoed strangely in the chamber because each species laughed differently. The Morphic delegate made a bubbling noise. The Cathari clicked their mandibles rapidly. The humanoid Alterans simply chuckled like humans, but with obvious mockery. Commander Sisk turned his cold yellow eyes toward Jin-Woo. Humans have been in space for barely 200 years. Your people still fight wars on your own planet. What could you possibly teach us about managing resources? Veltar's crystal body shifted to pale green, showing mild amusement. Ambassador Park, your species has only been part of this council for 50 years. Perhaps you should listen and learn before offering suggestions. Jin-Woo nodded respectfully. Of course, Chairwoman. I only thought that cooperation might benefit everyone involved. The Vorthan delegate, a being of pure energy contained in a mechanical suit, spoke with a voice like rushing wind. This is why humans should not have full voting rights. They do not understand how galactic politics work. They think the universe runs on kindness and good intentions. More laughter filled the chamber. Jin-Woo noticed that not all species joined in. The peaceful Elthari delegates looked uncomfortable. The insectoid hive queen remained silent. But the majority clearly enjoyed mocking human idealism. Veltar called for order. The motion to grant Zephyrian expansion rights into Sector 7 Alpha will now be voted upon. All in favor? 8 of the 12 species raised their voting crystals. The light from their combined vote created a bright glow that indicated approval. Motion passed, Veltar announced. The affected species have 60 standard days to relocate to designated refugee worlds. Jin-Woo looked at his datapad again. 3 billion people would be forced from their homes. Most would end up in overcrowded camps on barren worlds. He raised his hand again. Chairwoman, I would like to formally register humanity's opposition to this decision. We believe forced relocation violates the Council's own charter regarding protection of weaker species. The chamber fell silent. It was rare for any delegate to formally oppose a passed motion. Commander Sisk hissed softly, a sign of annoyance in his species. Veltar's crystal body turned orange, indicating irritation. Your opposition is noted, Ambassador Park. However, the vote has been concluded. Perhaps this disagreement shows that humans are not yet ready for full participation in important decisions. The Altaran delegate, a pale humanoid with completely black eyes, stood up. I second that observation. Humans control only 14 worlds in a remote sector. Their military consists of primitive kinetic weapons and chemical rockets. They have no right to question decisions made by species who have ruled the galaxy since before Earth had civilization. Jin Wu remained calm despite the insults. We simply believe that strength should protect the weak, not prey upon them. Strength? Commander Sisk laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your entire species could not defeat a single Zephyrian battle group. You have no ships larger than a cruiser. Your weapons cannot penetrate modern shields. You survive in this galaxy only because we allow it. The Morphic delegate bubbled in agreement. Humans think their emotions matter more than facts. They see suffering and want to fix it. But they lack the power to change anything. It is almost cute, like watching children play at being adults. Veltar raised one crystalline hand for silence. This discussion has revealed an important point. The human species, while well-meaning, lacks the experience and capability to participate in crucial decisions. Therefore, I propose that human voting rights be limited to matters that directly affect their own small territory. The vote was quick and overwhelming. 10 species approved the motion immediately. Only the Elthari abstained, and humans obviously voted against their own restrictions. Jin Wu stood slowly as the decision was announced. His face remained perfectly calm, but something had changed in his eyes. The other delegates continued their conversations, already dismissing the humans as irrelevant. As the session ended, Jin Wu gathered his materials carefully. He walked toward the exit with measured steps. Behind him, he could hear alien delegates making jokes about human weakness and naivety. Near the door, Commander Sisk stepped into his path. Do not take this personally, human. Your species simply needs more time to mature. Perhaps in a few hundred years, you will be ready for real responsibility. Jin Wu looked up at the towering reptilian and smiled politely. Thank you for the advice, Commander. I will be sure to share your wisdom with my government. As Jin Wu left the chamber, none of the other delegates noticed the small recording device he carried. None of them knew that every word spoken in the session was being transmitted instantly to Earth through quantum communication networks. They had no idea that their mockery and dismissal had just been broadcast to every human world simultaneously. The species that prided itself on patience and long-term planning had been watching and listening for 50 years. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you mistook human kindness for human weakness. 3 months had passed since the High Council stripped humans of their voting rights. Jin Wu Park returned to the crystal chamber with the same calm expression he always wore. His plain black suit stood out among the elaborate clothing of the other delegates. The chamber buzzed with conversation as various species discussed trade agreements and border disputes. Jin Wu took his usual seat in the back section and waited patiently for the session to begin. Chairwoman Veltar called the meeting to order. Her crystal body glowed steady blue as she read from the day's agenda. First item: Zephyrian Empire expansion requirements. Commander Sisk will present the proposal. Commander Sisk rose from his seat with obvious confidence. His silver scales gleamed under the chamber's lights. Fellow council members, our recent expansion into Sector 7 Alpha has been highly successful. We have increased resource production by 40% in just 3 months. Several delegates nodded approvingly. The forced relocation had proceeded exactly as planned. 3 billion refugees now lived in crowded camps on distant worlds, but the council considered this a minor detail. However, Sisk continued, our population continues to grow rapidly. We require additional worlds to sustain our people. Therefore, we formally request the evacuation of Sector 12 Beta to accommodate Zephyrian colonization needs. Jin Wu looked up sharply from his datapad. Sector 12 Beta contained 12 human colony worlds. Over 15 million humans lived there, including major agricultural and manufacturing centers. Veltar's crystal form shifted to pale green, showing mild interest. Sector 12. Beta is currently occupied by human settlements. What is your proposal regarding their relocation? The humans can find new homes elsewhere in the galaxy, Sisk said casually. Their technology is primitive. They do not require worlds with advanced infrastructure. Any barren planets will suit their needs. Jinwoo stood slowly. Chairwoman, I request permission to address the council. The chamber fell silent. It was unusual for humans to speak during important sessions since their voting restrictions were put in place. Veltar's body turned orange, indicating mild annoyance. You may speak briefly, Ambassador Park. However, remember that this decision does not require human approval. Jinwoo walked to the center of the chamber. He activated his datapad and projected a holographic display showing ship movement patterns over the past 6 months. Honorable Council members, I present evidence of unprovoked attacks on human civilian vessels. These attacks coincide exactly with Zephyrian fleet movements near human space. Eindu. Mender 7. The hologram showed dozens of merchant ships that had disappeared along trade routes. Each incident occurred when Zephyrian patrol ships were in the area. Commander Sisk hissed softly. Are you accusing the Zephyrian Empire of piracy, human? I am presenting facts. Jinwoo replied calmly. 18 human freighters have vanished in the past 3 months. All carried valuable cargo. All disappeared near Zephyrian territory. The Altiran delegate laughed coldly. Perhaps human ships are simply too poorly built to survive long journeys. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Other delegates joined the laughter. The morphic representative bubbled with amusement. Even the usually neutral Cathari clicked their mandibles in what passed for chuckling among their species. Veltar raised her hand for silence. Ambassador Park, do you have proof of Zephyrian involvement beyond circumstantial evidence? Jinwoo activated another hologram. This one showed pieces of destroyed ships floating in space. The metal bore distinctive weapon marks. These debris fields were recovered by human patrol ships. The damage patterns match Zephyrian plasma cannons exactly. We also detected Zephyrian military encryption signals at each attack site. R. Every field. 1. Every field. Every field. Every field. Every field. Every field. Every field. Commander Sisk stood up abruptly, towering over Jinwoo. Even if these accusations were true, which they are not, what could humans possibly do about it? You have no military power. You cannot enforce any demands. Jinwoo met the reptilian's cold stare without flinching. We seek justice through this council. As the charter requires, we ask for investigation and protection of innocent civilians. The Vorthan delegate's mechanical voice carried clear disdain. Justice requires strength to enforce it. Humans have neither the ships nor the weapons to matter in galactic affairs. Your requests are meaningless. Veltar's crystal body shifted to bright orange. The evidence you present is insufficient to prove wrongdoing. Moreover, Zephyrian expansion needs take priority over unsubstantiated claims. Then you refuse to investigate these attacks? Jinwoo asked quietly. We refuse to waste council time on human paranoia. Sisk growled. Your species sees conspiracies everywhere because you know you are weak and vulnerable. Veltar consulted her agenda display. Returning to the matter at hand, the Zephyrian request for Sector 12 Beta is reasonable. The human colonies there will be given 30 standard days to evacuate completely. Jinwoo's voice remained steady. And if we refuse to abandon our homes? The chamber erupted in alien laughter. The sound was harsh and mocking, echoing from the crystal walls. Commander Sisk smiled, showing his razor-sharp teeth. Then we will implement enforcement protocols. Orbital bombardment will clear the planets efficiently. You would murder 15 million innocent people? Jinwoo asked. We would remove obstacles to legitimate expansion, Veltar corrected. The Council has already established that human interests are secondary to those of more developed species. Jinwoo looked around the chamber slowly. Every alien face showed the same expression. Contempt mixed with amusement. They truly believed humans were too weak to matter. I see, Jinwoo said softly. So this council officially approves the destruction of human colonies if we do not surrender our worlds voluntarily? The council approves efficient resource allocation, Veltar replied coldly. If humans choose to resist, they will face the consequences of their foolishness. The Altiran delegate added, Perhaps this will teach your species to accept reality. You are the weakest members of this council. You should be grateful we allow you to exist at all. Jinwoo stood in the center of the chamber for a long moment. The alien delegates waited to see if he would beg or plead for mercy. Instead, he simply nodded. I understand the council's position completely. You have made your intentions very clear. He walked back to his seat and gathered his materials with careful precision. Then he stood again and spoke in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber. As of this moment, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic High Council. We reject your authority and renounce all treaties signed under council oversight. The chamber fell completely silent. No species had ever withdrawn from the council voluntarily. Commander Sisk recovered first. You cannot survive outside council protection, human. Pirates and raiders will destroy your pathetic colonies within months. Jinwoo walked toward the exit with measured steps. That is humanity's concern now, not yours. Veltar's crystal body flashed bright red with anger. This tantrum will accomplish nothing. You have 30 days to evacuate Sector 12 Beta regardless of your council membership. Jinwoo stopped at the chamber door and turned back one final time. His calm expression had not changed, but something cold and dangerous flickered in his eyes. 30 days, he repeated quietly. Understood. As the door closed behind him, the alien delegates burst into renewed laughter. They had no idea that Jinwoo's words were being broadcast live to every human world in the galaxy. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this exact moment for 50 years. The evacuation began immediately after Jinwoo's return to human space. On 12 worlds across Sector 12 Beta, civilian transports lifted off by the thousands. To outside observers, it looked exactly like what the High Council expected. Humans fleeing in panic before superior alien forces. But something strange was happening beneath the surface. Instead of leaving their worlds empty, the human colonists moved into massive underground facilities that nobody knew existed. These weren't simple shelters or mining tunnels. They were entire cities carved deep into planetary bedrock, complete with farms, factories, and life support systems. The construction had taken decades to complete. Every human colony world contained similar hidden installations, connected by tunnel networks that stretched for thousands of kilometers. From space, the planets appeared to be evacuating. In reality, 15 million people were simply moving downstairs. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Seoul, buried 3 kilometers beneath the planet's surface. As Admiral of the Human Defense Force, she had overseen the secret construction projects for 30 years. The chamber around her buzzed with activity as hundreds of technicians prepared for what was coming. Status report, she ordered calmly. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his console. All civilian populations are secured in underground facilities. Surface installations have been cleared and prepared for activation. What about the other colonies? Same status across all 12 worlds. Everyone's underground and safe. The Zephyrians will find empty cities when they arrive. Sarah nodded and walked to the main display screen. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the entire sector. Red dots marked the positions of approaching Zephyrian ships. The enemy fleet was massive. Over 500 vessels ranging from destroyers to massive dreadnoughts. "They're not taking any chances," Captain Kim observed. "That's enough firepower to glass every planet in the sector." Sarah smiled grimly. "Good. Let them bring everything they have. The bigger the fleet, the more complete our demonstration will be." On the surface above them, the colonial cities stood empty and silent. But hidden beneath farms and forests, enormous structures were rising from concealed underground bays. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as geological formations for decades now revealed their true nature. Similar scenes played out on 11 other worlds. What had appeared to be natural mountain ranges were actually massive defense installations. Lakes and rivers had hidden submarine bases containing fleets of ships that used technology no other species had ever seen. The secret construction had been humanity's greatest achievement. For 50 years, while alien species mocked human weakness, Earth's engineers had been busy. Every human world was actually a fortress designed to withstand sieges that could last for centuries. Dr. Yuki Tanaka materialized as a hologram in the command center. She was broadcasting from the hidden facility on Earth, coordinating the defense of all human space. "Admiral Chen, we're receiving surrender demands from the Zephyrian commander. They want us to confirm that all human military forces have withdrawn from Sector 12 Beta." Sarah laughed softly. "What military forces do we officially have? According to galactic records, humans possess a few hundred patrol ships and some orbital defense platforms." "Exactly. Should we respond to their demands? Tell them that all official human military assets have been withdrawn from the sector." It's technically true. The Zephyrian fleet was now only 6 hours away from the first colony world. Long-range sensors showed they were maintaining standard formation, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Captain Rodriguez studied the tactical display. "Admiral, they're not even bothering with advanced scouting. They expect zero resistance. Why would they? As far as the galaxy knows, humans can barely manage spaceflight. Our advanced ships use primitive kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion." Sarah walked to another console that showed energy readings from across human space. Every colony world was generating massive power, but the signatures were completely hidden by sophisticated shielding technology. "Status of the reveal protocols?" she asked. "All systems ready for simultaneous activation. When you give the word, every human world will drop its camouflage at the same moment." Sarah nodded. The plan was simple but devastating. Let the Zephyrians enter the system expecting easy conquest. Allow them to position their entire fleet for orbital bombardment. Then show them what humanity had really been building for the past 50 years. The first Zephyrian ships entered the outer edge of the new Sol system. Commander Sisk himself commanded the flagship, a massive dreadnought equipped with weapons capable of destroying continents. "All human settlements appear abandoned," reported the Zephyrian tactical officer. "No energy signatures detected. No ships in orbit." "Excellent," Sisk hissed with satisfaction. The cowards ran away rather than face superior forces. "Begin bombardment of the colonial infrastructure. We will build new cities suitable for our people." The Zephyrian fleet moved into perfect bombardment formation. Every ship positioned itself for maximum destructive coverage. They wanted to eliminate all traces of human presence before their colonists arrived. In her underground command center, Sarah watched the enemy fleet arrange itself exactly where her planners had predicted. "They've taken the bait perfectly," Captain Kim reported. "All enemy ships are in optimal target zones." Sarah looked at the chronometer on her console. In 18 minutes, the Zephyrian flagship would begin orbital bombardment of New Sol. The attack would target empty buildings and abandoned streets, but Sisk didn't know that. "Open communication channels to all human worlds," she ordered. "Activate recording systems. I want every species in the galaxy to witness what happens next." The communication officer nodded. "Channels open, Admiral. We're broadcasting on all frequencies." Sarah stepped in front of the main display screen. Behind her, the tactical plot showed 500 enemy ships preparing to destroy what they thought were defenseless human colonies. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. For 50 years, humanity has been a member of the Galactic High Council. We came in peace. We offered cooperation. We shared our knowledge and resources freely. She paused, looking directly into the camera that would broadcast her words across the galaxy. In return, we were mocked, dismissed, and threatened. Other species called us weak because we chose diplomacy over violence. They mistook our restraint for inability. On the tactical display, the Zephyrian fleet was almost in position. Today, the Galactic High Council authorized the destruction of innocent human civilians. They approved orbital bombardment of our homes because we dared to ask for justice. Sarah's voice remained calm, but ice-cold determination filled her words. For 50 years, you have underestimated humanity. You assumed we were weak because we were peaceful. You thought we were helpless because we chose cooperation over conquest. The Zephyrian flagship began charging its main weapons. You were wrong. Sarah raised her hand. All human worlds, drop concealment, activate all defensive systems, show them what we've really been building. Across Sector 12 Beta, 12 planets suddenly blazed with energy signatures that made the Zephyrian sensors scream warnings. The Zephyrian flagship sensors screamed with alarm signals that nobody had programmed them to handle. Energy readings that should have been impossible flooded the tactical displays. Commander Sisk stared at his screens in complete shock. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Where are these signatures coming from?" His tactical officer's voice shook with confusion. "Sir, massive structures are rising from the planetary surfaces. The energy output it's beyond our measurement capabilities." Across the new Sol system, the ground itself seemed to reshape as enormous installations emerged from hidden underground positions. What had appeared to be natural mountain ranges split apart to reveal weapons platforms the size of cities. Artificial lakes drained away to expose massive launch bays containing ships that defied everything the Zephyrians knew about human technology. On 11 other worlds, the same transformation was happening simultaneously. Decades of careful camouflage fell away to reveal the truth. Every human colony was actually a fortress that could defend itself against entire fleets. Commander Sisk watched in growing horror as his tactical display updated with new contacts. Hundreds of human ships were emerging from concealment, but their design was unlike anything in galactic databases. They moved with impossible speed and grace, surrounded by energy fields that his sensors couldn't identify. "Analysis of enemy vessels?" he barked at his science officer. "Sir, I cannot classify these ships. They don't match any known human designs. The energy signatures suggest technology far beyond current galactic standards." On the main viewer, Sisk could see one of the human ships approaching his position. It was sleek and predatory, crackling with power that made space itself shimmer around its hull. Admiral Chen's voice suddenly filled the communication channels of every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. "Commander Sisk, you came here to destroy defenseless human colonies. Allow me to show you what humanity has really been building while you laughed at our weakness." End quote. End quote. The human ship nearest to the flagship fired a single shot. It wasn't aimed at the Zephyrian vessel, but at a small asteroid floating nearby. The asteroid simply vanished, turned to atoms in an instant by a weapon that produced no visible beam or projectile. Sisk felt his blood turn cold. His flagship's shields could withstand conventional galactic weapons, but what he had just witnessed was far beyond anything he understood. "Sir," his communication officer reported with a trembling voice, "we're receiving surrender demands from the humans." "Surrender?" Sisk roared. "We outnumber them 5-1. "Actually, sir," the tactical officer interrupted, "new contacts are still appearing. Current count shows over 2,000 human vessels in this system alone. Sisk stared at his displays. The human fleet had appeared as if from nowhere, surrounding his forces completely. Ships emerged from asteroid fields, from the shadows of planets, from empty space itself using some kind of cloaking technology. Admiral Chen's transmission continued. For 50 years, we allowed the galaxy to think our ships were primitive. We showed you chemical rockets and kinetic weapons because we wanted you to underestimate us. Every merchant vessel you saw was actually gathering intelligence on your defenses. One of the massive planetary defense platforms rotated to aim directly at the Zephyrian flagship. The weapon was larger than most space stations, crackling with energy that made the stars themselves seem dim. While you were building ships to conquer and oppress, we were building ships to protect and defend. While you were starting wars, we were studying your weaknesses. While you were celebrating your strength, we were preparing to show you what real strength looks like. Sisk tried to process what he was seeing. The humans hadn't just hidden a few extra ships. They had built an entire secret navy using technology that shouldn't exist. Every assumption about human capabilities had been completely wrong. "Sir," his navigation officer called out, "human ships are surrounding the entire fleet. They're not attacking, but they have us completely trapped." "How many ships do they have?" Sisk demanded. "In this system alone? Over 3,000, and more are still appearing. Sir, if they have this many ships in one colony system, how many might they have across all human space?" Sisk didn't want to think about that answer. The official records claimed humans had fewer than 500 ships total. If those records were lies, if every human system contained forces like this, Admiral Chen's voice carried a tone of cold amusement. "I can see your confusion, Commander. You're trying to understand how a weak species could build such a fleet. The answer is simple. We're not weak. We never were." The human ships moved with perfect coordination, adjusting their positions to maintain complete coverage of the Zephyrian fleet. Their movements were so precise and synchronized that they seemed to share a single mind. "Earth is what galactic biologists classify as a death world," Chen continued. "Our planet tried to kill us with ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and climate changes for millions of years. We survived by adapting, by planning ahead, and by working together." A new group of human ships decloaked directly above the flagship. These vessels were larger than the others, bristling with weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Did you really think a species that survived planetary disasters would be helpless in space? Did you think creatures that evolved to outlast extinction events would be unprepared for war? Sisk's communication officer looked up with desperation. "Sir, the humans are demanding an immediate response to their surrender ultimatum. They want our entire fleet to power down weapons and surrender within 5 minutes. And if we refuse?" The tactical display answered his question. Every human ship in the system had weapons locked onto Zephyrian targets. The energy readings were so massive that a single volley could destroy his entire fleet. "Sir," the science officer whispered, "their weapons are aimed at specific weak points in our ships. They know exactly where to hit us for maximum damage. It's like they've studied our ship designs for decades." Admiral Chen's final words reached them with terrifying clarity. "We gave the galaxy 50 years of peace, Commander Sisk. 50 years of cooperation and friendship. We asked for nothing except to be left alone to live in harmony with our neighbors." The human ships began to glow brighter as their weapons charged to full power. "You rejected our friendship. You mocked our peaceful nature. You threatened to murder innocent civilians because we dared to ask for justice. Now you will face the consequences of mistaking human kindness for human weakness." The 5-minute deadline appeared on every Zephyrian ship's display, counting down second by second. Sisk looked around his bridge at officers whose faces showed the same terrified realization he felt. They weren't facing a weak species with primitive technology. They were staring at the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen, commanded by creatures who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to survive impossible odds. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "Power down all weapons. Prepare to surrender." As the Zephyrian ships began shutting down their systems, Admiral Chen's voice carried one final message that would be heard on every world in the galaxy. "Let this be a lesson to any species that mistakes human restraint for human inability. We are the children of a death world. We survived by being smart, patient, and prepared. Cross us at your own peril." The crystal dome of the High Council chambers had never been so quiet. Emergency sessions were usually filled with heated debates and loud arguments. Today, 12 species sat in complete silence, staring at the holographic displays that showed the impossible. Chairwoman Veltar's crystalline body flickered between colors rapidly, showing her complete emotional confusion. Red for anger, blue for fear, orange for shock, then back to red again. She couldn't settle on any single emotion because what she was witnessing defied everything she thought she knew about reality. The main display showed live footage from Sector 12 Beta. Over 500 Zephyrian warships floated motionless in space, their weapons powered down and their crews broadcasting surrender signals. Around them, thousands of human vessels moved in perfect formation, ships that hadn't existed in any galactic database just hours earlier. "This is impossible," the Morphic delegate bubbled weakly. "Our intelligence reports clearly state that humans have fewer than 500 ships total, primitive vessels with chemical rockets and kinetic weapons." The Vorthan delegate's mechanical voice carried unusual uncertainty. "Our reports were based on human declarations to this council. They told us exactly what they wanted us to believe." On the secondary displays, similar scenes played out across all of human space. Every human colony world had revealed massive hidden defenses. Fleets that dwarfed entire species navies emerged from concealment. Weapons, platforms larger than most space stations rose from planetary surfaces. Commander Sisk appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber, his silver scales pale with shock and defeat. "Honorable Council members, I must report the complete surrender of the Zephyrian 12th Fleet. Human forces have demonstrated overwhelming technological and numerical superiority." The Altiran delegate's black eyes reflected disbelief. "What do you mean by overwhelming? You commanded 500 ships against a primitive human colony." Sisk's laugh carried no humor whatsoever. "Primitive? Council member, I faced over 3,000 human vessels in the new Sol system alone. Ships using technology centuries ahead of anything in our databases. Weapons that can destroy matter at the molecular level. Defenses that make our best shields look like decorative lights." Veltar's color shifted to deep purple, indicating fear bordering on panic. "How is this possible? We monitored human ship construction for 50 years. We had spies in their shipyards. They showed us exactly what they wanted us to see," Sisk replied grimly. "Every human merchant ship that visited our worlds was gathering intelligence. Every trade mission was mapping our defenses. Every diplomatic meeting was them studying our weaknesses." The massive chamber doors opened with a soft chime. Jinwoo Park walked in, but he was no longer alone. Admiral Sarah Chen flanked his right side, her military uniform decorated with rank insignia that showed her authority over forces the Council had never imagined. On his left walked General Kim Min-jun, whose calm expression somehow managed to radiate controlled violence. Jinwoo's plain black suit remained unchanged, but his entire demeanor had shifted. The humble, polite diplomat was gone. In his place stood someone who commanded respect through demonstrated power rather than requesting it through careful words. "Honorable Council members," Jinwoo said, his voice carrying new authority. "I have returned to discuss new terms of engagement between humanity and the galactic community." Veltar's crystal body flashed bright red with anger. "You have no right to make demands. This council has governed the galaxy for 3,000 years. Your species is barely out of its cradles. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her hand resting casually on a device at her belt. Chairwoman Veltar, our species has been listening to your government for 50 years. We kept detailed records of every decision, every vote, every casual dismissal of human interests. Would you like to see the compilation? A holographic display materialized above the chamber, showing 50 years of council sessions. Every insult, every joke, every moment of casual cruelty toward humanity played in accelerated time. The alien delegates watched themselves mock human weakness, laugh at human idealism, and dismiss human suffering as irrelevant. General Kim spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. We also recorded every species' military capabilities, ship movements, and defense installations. 50 years of intelligence gathering while you thought we were harmless traitors and diplomats. The Cathari delegate clicked their mandibles nervously. Jinwoo smiled, but it wasn't the polite expression he had worn for decades. This smile was cold and predatory. Justice. Accountability. Change. He activated a data pad that projected new holographic displays. Each showed detailed schematics of council member homeworlds, including classified defense installations and government facilities. The Galactic High Council is hereby dissolved, Jinwoo announced calmly. You have proven yourselves unfit to govern through your treatment of weaker species and your casual approval of genocide. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Multiple species tried to speak at once, their translators creating a chaos of overlapping languages. Admiral Chen raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent. The gesture carried such natural authority that even ancient species instinctively obeyed. Each member species will face individual judgment based on their actions during council sessions. Some civilizations showed wisdom and restraint. Others actively participated in oppression and cruelty. General Kim continued the explanation. Species that consistently voted for peaceful solutions will be offered alliance with humanity. Those that showed mercy to weaker civilizations will receive protection and support. Jin Wu's expression grew harder. Species that voted for genocide, that laughed at suffering, that used their strength to oppress others, will face consequences proportional to their crimes. Veltar's crystal body had turned completely transparent, a sign of absolute terror in her species. You cannot destroy entire civilizations. It would make you no better than the tyrants you claim we are. We're not going to destroy anyone, Admiral Chen replied calmly. We're going to do something far worse for species like yours. We're going to make you irrelevant. New holographic displays showed human fleets surrounding the homeworlds of every council species. The ships had appeared simultaneously across dozens of star systems, demonstrating coordination on a galactic scale. Trade routes will now be controlled by humanity and our new allies, General Kim explained. Resource distribution will be managed fairly rather than allowing strong species to steal from weak ones. Conflicts will be resolved through justice rather than pure strength. Jinwoo walked to the center of the chamber, standing in the same spot where he had been mocked and dismissed for 50 years. The Zephyrian Empire will return all territory taken from weaker species. The morphic hegemony will compensate the civilizations they enslaved. The Alteran Republic will face trial for their war crimes against peaceful traders. And if we refuse? Commander Sisk asked, though his voice already carried the answer. Admiral Chen's smile was colder than empty space. Then you'll discover why humans are called the children of a death world. We survived by outlasting everything that tried to kill us. Ice ages, volcanoes, asteroid impacts, climate disasters, and planetary wars couldn't destroy us. She paused, letting her words sink in completely. What makes you think a few alien species could succeed where our own planet failed? The Great High Council Chamber, which had witnessed 3,000 years of galactic governance, fell into absolute silence. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy sat frozen in their seats, staring at the species they had dismissed as weak and irrelevant. Jinwoo gathered his materials with the same careful precision he had shown for 50 years. But now, the gesture carried different meaning. He wasn't preparing to leave in defeat. He was finishing the business of judgment. The transition period begins immediately, he announced. Humanity will establish new governmental structures based on justice rather than strength. All species will be evaluated for participation based on their historical actions and current behavior. As the three humans walked toward the exit, Jinwoo stopped and turned back one final time. You spent 50 years teaching us that the universe respects only power. Thank you for the lesson. We learned it very well. The chamber doors closed behind them with a soft chime, leaving the former rulers of the galaxy to contemplate their new reality. They had awakened something that had been sleeping patiently for 50 years. Now they would face the consequences of mistaking human kindness for human weakness.